Do Without Wilt is a lyrical menagerie of alchemy, wit, and wordplay by Absol of the TDE camp. The album even starts with a double entendre, raw backwoods on all you rappers, as Absol proclaims that he'll smoke any competition. This is just shallow waters in the pool of lyricism and lyrical depth that Absol's packs into Do Without Wilt. Some early criticisms. My main criticism of Do Without Wilt by Absol, and then I'll go into the pros and the praises of the album. But the main criticism is that the album structure and sequencing needs work. Do Without Wilt suffers from some structural issues. The intro featuring the uber talented musician Zakari seems to serve as an interlude to the album, but doesn't feel to have much purpose. On shuffle, the track isn't nearly as intriguing as when you listen to it in sequence with the entire album. It has grand production and chords and leads into track number 2, titled Braille, featuring Bass from Dreamville, J. Cole's label. And despite Ab and Bass's chemistry, Braille feels anticlimactic because it doesn't fit snugly next to the album's grand, raw, backwoods intro opener. By the time listeners get to Dash's verse on track number 3, Huey Knew Then, Do Without Wilt starts to feel more like a mixtape and less like a TDE studio album. The features clog the album early, and it's not until Ab takes complete control on track number 4, Threatening Nature, that the album begins to assert to direction. I would prefer the album to begin with Threatening Nature or with Raw, Backwoods, followed by Threatening Nature. Huey Knew Then can work within the context of the album, but towards the middle or even as track number 2 on a Do Without Will album with a Threatening Nature opener. I know, detailed and picky, I know. But Absol and his team seems to have paid particular attention to track sequencing on Do Without Wilt too. The album appears to be organized and sequenced in accordance to producer and sound. For example, Ab used the same producers for more than one beat on this album, and he sequenced this album in a way where their contributions play in back-to-back sequence on the album. For example, Sky Hutch produced 2 songs on Do Without Wilt. He or she produced Wifey vs. Wi-Fi and Beat the Case featuring Schoolboy Q, both of which play consecutively as tracks number 7 and 8. Pac Music Group produced 3 songs on Do Without Wilt, and 2 of his 3 tracks play consecutively as track number 9, Portishead in the Morning, and track number 10, God's a Girl. Francis Got Heat produced 2 songs, which are sequenced as track number 12, Drugs, and track number 13, Evil Genius, and producer Bentley Hayes had a hand in 2 beats on Do Without Wilt, and like producers Sky Hutch and Francis Got Heat, who also produced 2 beats on the album, Hayes' songs play back to back as tracks number 15 and number 16. So, on a preliminary level, there seems to have been some extended thought into the sequence and structure of Do Without Wilt. But if I were in Absol's team, I would have went further by cutting tracks that skirt momentum and rearranging songs in favor of intrigue and playability. The Lonely Soul track featuring Punch, which goes into the Law Prelude featuring SZA, would serve as an amazing outro to the album. Do Without Wilt's actual outro, YMF, feels like it belongs in the thick of the album, perhaps near the more upbeat songs Womanogamy and Wifey vs. Wi-Fi. So those are the criticism. Now let me get into the praise of this album, because this really is a very impressive album by Absol and one of his best. Absol's lyrical content and rhyme scheme on Do Without Wilt are next level. He's one of few rappers who can go bar for bar with Kendrick Lamar for an entire song. But despite his gift of pen and spiritual knowledge, Soul tends to jack typical rapper flows. Now, I know I said this is the praise part, but we've got to throw this in there too, because Absol borrowed Drake's 6-man flow on his song Raw Backwoods on the intro. And the Beat the Case hook is repetition of an overused cadence in hip-hop in 2016. The 4-song track stretch from tracks 4 through track 7 on Do Without Wilt, when it goes from track number 4, Threatening Nature, to Womanogamy, to Invocation featuring Cocaine, to Wifey vs. Wi-Fi, is particularly interesting. because in that span of just 16-ish minutes, we as listeners get to witness Ab-Soul as the alchemist and pastor, like on Threatening Nature. But then on the very next track, Womanogamy, Ab decompresses and delivers a more smooth and structured, focused tune. The deep historical thoughts on Threatening Nature blend well into the numerology talk on Womanogamy. Womanogamy morphs into Invocation featuring Cocaine, which hosts a seamless cocaine feature on top of a raging saxophone medley. The sequence ends at track number 7, Wifey vs. Wi-Fi, and the song's prefix is enjoyably vibrant and showcases Ab-Soul delving into numerology on Do Without Wilt yet again. So that's a reoccurring theme on this album, numerology. On Wifey vs. Wi-Fi, Ab-Soul is quoted as saying, "Notice how every number represents 3 letters of the alphabet. Like 2 is A, B, C, 3 is D, E, F." So he's kind of, letting the listener get into that numerology aspect as well. Do Without Wilt is without a doubt strongest in the middle, about 20 minutes into the album. And the momentum isn't broken until track number 10, God's a Girl. The charm of Do Without Wilt is Ab-Soul's lyrical content and messaging. On the album, Solo manages to pick proper instrumentals to back his intelligent bravado, which is a nod to his beat selection. The gem of the album is Drugs featuring Mac Miller. The hook is infectious, the production is cinematic, and Solo and Mac fit on that track together like a glove. Final verdict, Do Without Wilt is one of Ab-Soul's best showings. He got wet over some great instrumentals and went in his zone lyrically and spiritually. The album features galaxy talk, numerology talk, and commentary on love, amongst other things. And although the album is a bit heavy, at nearly an hour and 20 minutes long, listeners are still treated to a handful of enjoyable cuts throughout. With Do Without Wilt in the books, Ab-Soul reaffirms that he's occupying the deep lyrical double entendre, triple entendre zone that the likes of Lupe Fiasco, MF Doom, and Jay-Z once occupied. I recommend this album.